This is Mac OS Ken.
Record March revenue, a record March quarter for iPhone, a record all-time quarter for services. Sounds like a broken record, don't it? It is Friday, the 1st of May. Something I'm supposed to start doing today, can't remember what. I'm Ken Ray, and this... Ooh, I remember. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from macOS Ken, brought to you by yours truly and sponsored by Copilot Money. Your money, beautifully organized. Get 2 months free with code macOS Ken at copilot.money/macOSken. This show is also supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more in that your support at patreon.com/macOSken. The numbers came in as expected, which is to say, off the charts. Apple issued a press release Thursday afternoon highlighting numbers from the company's second quarter fiscal year 2026, aka the March quarter. While everything that happens is something for the history books, this one was for the record books as well. The release says the company posted quarterly revenue of $111.2 billion, up 17% year over year. Diluted earnings per share were $2.01, up 22% from the year before. That smacked the professionals, followed by Yahoo Finance and TipRanks silly. It also put shame in the game of the pros, followed by Apple 3.0. They were closer, though, looking for revenue of $110.11 billion on earnings per share of $1.97. Independent analysts followed by the site overshot a bit. They'd expected revenue of $111.57 billion on earnings per share of $2.07. By Price is Right rules, the pros would walk away with the prize. Here's something they all got right, though. They were looking for a record quarter, and they got it. Quoted in the press release, Apple CEO Tim Cook touted Apple's best March quarter ever, with double-digit growth across every geographic segment. iPhone set a March quarter revenue record. Services set another all-time record. Kind of a big call, made a bit bigger by the new guy. John Turnus in the house and on the phone, but let's not push Apple's current CEO off the line just yet. How do you get to $111.2 billion in revenue? By generating $80.2 billion in products and $31 billion in services. Product revenue was up 17% year over year, according to Apple CFO Kevin Perek, with services revenue up 16% from the same quarter a year ago. Going through segments, or segments as I like to call them, iPhone brought in $57 billion in revenue, up 22% year over year. CEO Cook pointed out on the call that last quarter saw the addition of iPhone 17e to the lineup, fueling what was already the strongest iPhone lineup Apple has ever had. And that's sort of quantifiable, with Cook saying the iPhone 17 family is now the most popular lineup in Apple's history when looking at the launch through the March quarter. CFO Perek says Apple's communicator grew double digits in the majority of markets they track, including the US, Latin America, Greater China, Western Europe, India, Japan, and Southeast Asia. Yes, people love them. Customer satisfaction for iPhone 17 family in the US was recently measured at 99% by 451 Research, according to the CFO. The Mac generated revenue of $8.4 billion, up 6% versus the year-ago quarter. Cook says that was despite supply constraints driven by higher-than-expected demand. It was a record March quarter for upgraders and noobs to the Mac, which you gotta figure was jump-started by MacBook Neo. Perek said Mac grew in both developed and emerging markets, seeing double-digit growth in many emerging markets, including India and Indonesia. and folks can't get enough of the great taste. Customer satisfaction for the Mac in the States was recently tracked at 97%. Fundle slabbing it. iPad revenue came in at $6.9 billion, an increase of 8% from the March quarter of 2025. Over half the people buying an iPad last quarter were buying their first one, unbelievable as that may sound. Lots of those were in emerging markets, which makes that stat sound more believable. iPad revenue grew by double digits in those emerging regions, including in such areas as India, Mexico, and Thailand. And Apple's tablet sats are good. The 411 from 451 puts U.S. customer satisfaction with iPad at 98%. Revenue for wearables, home, and accessories came in at $7.9 billion, up 5% from the same quarter a year earlier, driven by strength in wearables and accessories, according to CFO Parek. That was driven by emerging markets, where the category set a March quarter revenue record. Once again, over half the people buying Apple Watch were buying their first one, and they are the cheesiest. U.S. customer satisfaction for Apple Watch stands at 96%. On now to services. As mentioned earlier, revenue for services came in at $31 billion, up 16% year over year. The segment hit all-time records in both developed and emerging markets, according to Parek, with all-time revenue records in most of the services categories. Apple's board has approved a dividend of 27 cents per share of common stock. That'll be payable on the 14th of May to shareholders of record as of the 11th. There was also something about no longer providing net cash neutral as a formal target, with Apple independently evaluating cash and debt. I've thrown up the bat signal on that one, asking a friend who understands such things to help me understand them. If he is successful, I will share my understanding with you. Assuming the world doesn't end, Apple offered color on how it thinks the June quarter's going to go. Bear in mind, though, the world could end. Assuming it doesn't, and assuming things don't get significantly worse, Apple expects June quarter revenue to grow by 14% to 17% versus the same quarter a year ago, and yes, that takes supply constraints into account. iPad's not going to do as well because this quarter last year, they had the launch of the A16-powered iPad, which I guess means no iPad this quarter. I don't think anybody was expecting one, but we don't usually hear that there's not going to be one. Services revenue is expected to grow at a year-over-year rate similar to what was reported in the March quarter, according to CFO Parek, taking out favorable foreign exchange headwinds, and gross margin is expected to come in between 47.5% and 48.5%. Now, I had said that incoming Apple CEO John Ternus was on the mic at one point. It was a simple introduction, to be honest. Current CEO Cook said of his successor, John is a brilliant engineer, a deep thinker, a person of remarkable character, and a born leader. I know he will push us to go further than we think is possible in order to deliver the greatest products and services for our users. I have been so proud to call him a colleague and a friend, and I will be even more proud to call him Apple CEO. Doing a big back at ya, Ternus called Cook one of the greatest business leaders of all time in his view. According to King New Guy, one of the hallmarks of Tim's tenure has been a deep thoughtfulness, deliberateness, and discipline when it comes to the financial decision-making of the company. And I want you to know that this is something CFO Kevin Parek and I intend to continue when I transition into the role of CEO in September. Ternus went on to say, "We have an incredible roadmap ahead, and while you're not going to get me to talk about the details of that roadmap, suffice it to say, this is the most exciting time in my 25-year career at Apple to be building products and services. There are so many opportunities before us, and I couldn't be more optimistic about what's to come. That actually happened near the beginning of the call, so it was that, then Tim Cook doing the pretty picture of the numbers, then CFO Parekh doing the numbery picture of the numbers, then the Q&A with analysts. We'll get to that in a moment, but first a word from today's sponsor, Copilot Money. Your money, beautifully organized. Money doesn't work the way it used to. We buy things standing in line to buy other things these days. Charges hit at all hours of the day or night. Staying on top of it can be tough, but not with Copilot Money. Copilot Money lets you track money coming in, money going out, where you stand on financial goals, and how your investments are performing, all in one beautiful interface, no matter what device you're on. Copilot Money has apps for iPhone, iPad, and the Mac, as well as a great web experience. All with a focus on privacy, and with help from real people if you need it. From managing the money you have to planning, tracking, and staying motivated on savings, Copilot Money is your guide to your financial life. Right now, you can get 2 months free with code MacOSKen at copilot.money/MacOSKen. Named Editor's Choice in Apple's App Store and featured by Apple as a smart way to save money, you can try it for no money, free for 2 months with offer code MacOSKen at copilot.money/MacOSKen. Copilot Money, your money beautifully organized. Try 2 months free with offer code MacOSKen at copilot.money/MacOSKen. Turning to the back half of Apple's Q2 earnings call, analysts had questions and Apple execs had things they were willing to say. Morgan Stanley analyst Eric Woodring quizzed Cook on the March quarter supply constraints. Cook said the constraints were primarily on iPhone and to a lesser extent on the Mac. For the June quarter, you can flip that around. Driving Mac shortages this quarter, people buying Mac Mini and Mac Studio for AI projects, and off-the-charts demand for MacBook Neo. No word on when the low-cost laptop will meet supply-demand balance. As for the Mac Mini and Mac Studio, it may take several months to reach supply-demand balance, according to Apple's CEO. Points to Melius analyst Ben Reitzes. He wanted to know how the rise in memory prices will affect Apple in the quarters ahead. That's quarters plural. Apple guided for between 47.5% and 48.5% margins for the June quarter. Are such margins sustainable past June? According to Cook, the rise in memory prices last quarter was partially offset by inventory Apple already had. For the June quarter, same again. And then, said Cook, where we don't give color beyond June, I can tell you that beyond the June quarter, we believe memory costs will drive an increasing impact on our business, and we'll continue to evaluate this, and as we've said before, we'll look at a range of options. Playing press your luck on the issue was B of A analyst Wamsi Mohan, who landed on a whammy. Noting that Cook noted higher impact from memory as you look beyond the June quarter, would the company be more likely to raise prices or take a hit to margins to grab market share? What part of we will look at a range of options don't you understand? Not an exact quote. The exact quote was, Wamsi, we will look at a range of options with memory costs increasing, and so I really don't want to go beyond that at this point. Oh, whammy. Oddly, CEO Cook had a prepared remark on recouping tariff money that got nestled into the Q&A. Maybe he figured somebody was going to ask about it directly and he'd have the answer waiting. When no one did, CFO Parekh shoehorned him into a response being offered to JP Morgan analyst Samik Chatterjee. I mean, it was about gross margins, which were affected by tariffs, so... Anyway, according to Cook, in terms of applying for a refund of tariffs paid, we're following the established processes, and we plan to reinvest any amount we receive back into U.S. innovation and advanced manufacturing. These would be new investments and would be in addition to our prior commitments in the U.S. So, don't be mad, whoever in the administration. We're investing whatever money we get back into the good old US of A, in addition to the $600 billion we've already pledged. I wonder if any of that other money comes with a trophy. That was far from everything, though those struck me as the most pertinent points. If you want to see or hear for yourself, there are a few ways I'd suggest. As usual, you can hit a replay of the call on Apple's investor page. That'll be up for the next couple of weeks. You can also download a podcast of the call. And many thanks again to 6 Colors for their transcript of the call. Read all about it at 6colors.com. macOS Ken, brought to you by me and sponsored by Copilot Money. Get 2 months free with code macOSKen at copilot.money/macOSKen. This show is also supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/macOSKen. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media. Online at backbeatmedia.com. You can find me on Mastodon, macOSKen at mastodon.social. You can also send me an email, info@macosken.com. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.